Good evening, all my South Orange Maple listeners, and all those other listeners in the towns of Millburn, Livingston, Irvington, West Orange, East Orange, Orange, and Newark. Welcome to In the Village with Anselm on the South Orange Maple Online Radio Experience, and live on the World Wide Web at somore.org. And the only radio show covering all your news, opinions, politics, talk, and sports happening in the South Orange Maple communities. You can listen to us every Monday through Friday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. That's Monday through Friday from 8 to 9:30 p.m. And reach us at 973-327-3626. That's 973-327-3626 to participate in the discussion. We have an interesting program lined up for you this evening, and I look forward to your participation in the discussion. Now, before we get to the news of South Orange and Maplewood, I want to talk about a public subject today, since we know that the president of the New York Knicks, he lives in South Orange. You guys didn't know that, right? Now you know. The president of the Knicks, or the former president, I should say, of the Knicks, lives in South Orange. And I was very disturbed today listening to sports radio. And all the prognosticators, I call them prognosticators. Yes, let me get that word correctly. Prognosticators. I call them that. Talking about Carmelo Anthony. And the new president of the Knicks, Phil Jackson, had a press conference today. And he was talking about Carmelo Anthony taking less money from the New York Knicks in order for him to build a team around Carmelo Anthony. As many of you may know, Carmelo Anthony can make the most money in free agency. He can make approximately $129 million over 5 years from the Knicks, as opposed to $96 million over 4 years from any other NBA team. So, should Carmelo Anthony decide that I don't want to play for the Knicks anymore, and he goes to another team, he's going to lose $33 million over 5 years. He can do 129 with the Knicks over 5 years, as opposed to 96 million over 4 years with another team. And this is once he opts out of his contract on July the 1st. And all these guys are telling us Carmelo Anthony needs to take less money in order to help the Knicks. He stated that he wanted to take less money to make the team better. You know, it always bothers me when other people are trying to spend your money for you. They are trying to decide, and I'm talking about the commentators now, all the other commentators, ESPN, WFAN, you see they get on these bandwagons and they just ride the wagon. They ride it. So they are saying that, yes, Carmelo Anthony should take less money. I mean, during the All-Star weekend in February, Carmelo Anthony stated, I quote, "Any opportunity I have to build that up in New York, I'll do it. I told people all the time, always say, if it takes me taking a pay cut, I'll be first one on the Knicks owner, Mr. James Dolan's steps, saying, take my money and let's build something strong over here." Carmelo Anthony said that. But you know something? I want to ask this question. Phil Jackson is telling Carmelo Anthony you should take less money. Phil Jackson is making $12 million a year as the president of the New York Knicks. He's making $60 million over 5 years. It's ironic. If the Los Angeles Lakers had came to Phil Jackson and said, Phil, listen, we can't pay you $12 million a year, but we can pay you $6 million a year. Would you take less money to be the president of the Los Angeles Lakers? Leave $6 million a year on the table. So you're leaving $30 million on the table. Okay? Will Phil Jackson have done that? How about all of the ESPN commentators? All of these guys who are saying Carmelo Anthony should take less money. I'll ask them this question. Another sports radio station come to you and says, okay, guys, you're making $1 million now, right? We want to pay you $1.5 million. However, another radio station right here in New York, you know we got two competing sports radio stations here in New York. You got ESPN and you got WFAN. So let's say the person is going to another radio station, another sports radio station outside of New York, and they offer them $2 million. But WFAN says, listen, we can offer you $1.5 million because we want to build a better product here in New York. We want to be very competitive with ESPN, but we only want you to take $1.5 million. How many of those guys are going to leave $500,000 on the table? If any of those guys are going to leave $500,000 on the table, I got a bridge to sell you for 25 cents. It's not a guarantee, but it's my belief that many of these guys will go for the $2 million. Doesn't matter if they got to leave New York, they're going to go where the money is. But these are the same guys. Yeah, I don't like to use this word, but this is the word. You know, sometimes we are hypocrites. We are really hypocrites. Which one of those guys are going to leave that $500,000 on the table? Which one of those guys? None of those guys. So you know what I say to Carmelo Anthony? Carmelo, take your $129 million over 5 years. Let me ask another question. What happens if Carmelo Anthony gets injured? He gets injured. You know, all these individuals, all these commentators who are saying, yeah, Carmelo should be taking less to make the Knicks a better team. That's not Carmelo's job. Phil Jackson's job is to make the Knicks better. If you don't want to re-sign Carmelo at $129 million, just don't. Use the money to sign other players if you want to make a championship team. But when you are going to tell me that Carmelo Anthony has to take less, Phil Jackson wasn't going to take less. Phil Jackson wanted his $12 million, and he got his $12 million. Now he's going to impose his will and tell Carmelo Anthony, hey, Carmelo, if you know what's good for you, take less. And this is what Phil Jackson said, quote, there are some obvious examples that are out there that everybody can point to, Jackson said. Tim Duncan making the salary he's making after being part of a dynasty. No, not a dynasty. I wouldn't call San Antonio a dynasty, a force, a great force. They haven't been able to win consecutive championships, but they have always been there. They can't win consecutive championships, but they've been there. They've been there. San Antonio has had a wonderful run, though, through Tim's tenure there as a player. He agreed to take a salary cut so other players can play with him so they can be this good. And that's the beginning of team play. The group down in Miami agreed to take less money to play together. So that's, I think, a precedent that has been set. LeBron James didn't leave $33 million on the table. He did not. Dwayne Wade didn't leave $33 million on the table. Chris Bosh didn't leave $33 million on the table. These guys are such hypocrites. And it's sad to say, you know. Phil Jackson got his $12 million a year. He got his $12 million. He got his $60 million over 5 years. Now he wants someone else to take less. Carmelo, if you're listening, tell Phil Jackson, Phil, why don't you renegotiate your salary, take less, right, and bring in a lot more other people that can help you build the Knicks? How about that? Take less. Don't take $12 million. One of the highest paid presidents in the world. He's one of the highest paid presidents in the world. What he's making, about 50 times what President Obama is making. But he wants to tell Carmelo Anthony to take less because he broached the subject some time ago. And you know, I had to broach this subject at the beginning of the discussion here in the Village With Anselm and the South Orange Maple Online Radio Experience. Because many times you listen to these commentators, they're a bunch of hypocrites. Sad to say, but it's true. They're a bunch of hypocrites. They're always quick to dong on these guys, to get dong on it. I mean, look at Deshaun Jackson. They vilify that poor guy. Call him the gangs and everything else. He never been convicted of anything. But because the Philadelphia Eagles didn't want to pay him, they just threw that out there and hope it would stick. They threw it up in the air and hope it would stick to Deshaun Jackson. They do that all the time. Now they're throwing this thing up in the air regarding Carmelo taking a pay cut. Take less and hope it sticks. Well, Carmelo, don't take any less, Carmelo. If the Knicks don't want to pay you, just move on. But don't take any less on them. I'd rather you take less from another team. And as a matter of fact, do we really think in the next 2 to 3 years the Knicks have any shot at being a championship team? Let's be honest. Do they have any shot? Maybe in 2015 they want to look at Kevin Love. They want to look at LaMarcus Aldridge and Rajon Rondo. You think those guys are really going to bring the Knicks a championship team without Carmelo Anthony? I mean, let's be honest. Carmelo Anthony doesn't have any NBA championships. Phil Jackson has 13. We all know that. We understand that. And in addition to that, think about it. And you know what? I don't hear anyone raising this point. I've listened to sports radio, and there's no one raising this point. Now, Steve Kerr is the front runner